Welcome to the Rainer Report, where 2 to 3 times a month we're bringing you a video presentation of critical issues facing the church, facing church leadership, facing pastors, and opportunities, not just challenges, but opportunities as well. In this particular episode, we're going to take about 10 minutes to talk about some areas where pastors and other ministers are not prepared for ministry. Now, I feel sorry for the seminaries at times. Seminaries get beaten up over this. They say, seminary didn't prepare me for this. Seminary didn't prepare me for that. Look, you could spend 10 years at a seminary, and there's no way you could prepare for every contingency that is going to take place in the local church. The seminaries do a great job of preparing you. In this particular case, there will be times where you are unprepared. Let me share with you 8 of those areas where I have heard from pastors and other staff members that they are least prepared. Some of these we've heard as we have dealt with conflict situations or with opportunities and challenges in churches. The first of these is what I call relational intelligence. All of us have some level of deficiency in relational intelligence. The layperson's definition of relational intelligence is be able to see yourself in the mirror clearly. Now, that is not a physical appearance, but that is what your body language says, how you're received by people, whether or not you're thought of as curt or whether you're seen as friendly or happy. What is it that other people see when they see you or hear you, talk to you, or maybe read your writings? Emotional intelligence is a self-awareness issue. At least that's one of the major components of relational intelligence. Look, if a pastor or minister does not have good relational intelligence, if a staff person does not, he or she is in trouble already, because you've got to have high relational IQ in order to connect with church members. You're going to have healthy church members. You're going to have unhealthy church members. You're going to have happy church members. You're going to have unhappy church members. In the near future, I'll be talking to you about how you can know what your emotional intelligence is, how you can know what your emotional IQ is. We actually have some devices that I think should be able to help you with that. A second one related to this is leadership skills. Even if you take 5 or 6 leadership courses at a seminary and college, which you probably won't, you can't take all the leadership contingencies that you will find in the local church. So be prepared for situations where you must be a continuous learner. And I've said that again and again. Continuous learning. We have to be ever learning what it's all about. I'm reading a book now by a leader. I'm not going to give you the title of the book because I haven't quite finished it and I don't know all that's in it, and I got to make sure I don't get myself in trouble. But I'm reading a book right now about a leader that I'm just fascinated with. Why am I reading it? Yeah, to help me with my commute time here. I'm listening to it on Audible actually, but also to learn, because I have learned that at my decrepit age, I can still learn how to be a better leader. I can learn things, and I try to learn more and more. I need leadership skills. Even though I've been leading for quite a while, I need more leadership skills. Many ministers, many pastors are telling us they are woefully unprepared for leadership in the local church. Also related to this, number 3 is dealing with critics. We've talked about this ad infinitum. How you deal with critics will test your leadership mettle. It will make you become a better leader or a weaker leader. It will focus you on the things you need to focus on. There's obviously an overlap between this one and the previous 2, but I wanted to put them as separate issues because this is an area where you're unprepared. What's the best thing to do? Get a peer, get a mentor. Go to Church Answers. That's where so many of our leaders talk to one another and get peer information. Hey, this critic just said this about me. What do I do? I love watching the other people come back and say, oh, that happened to me and me and me. And everybody says, well, I'm not alone. Just knowing that you're not alone is sometimes one of the great ways to deal with critics. Another area where they're unprepared is family matters. They're not prepared with the strain that ministry can, not should, but can put upon a family. They're not prepared with the glass house. They're not prepared for the reactions of their spouses or their children. Many ministers fail in ministry because they fail with their families. I've said this many times and I'll repeat it again. Don't fall for the false dichotomy of giving your family priority over the church. That's a false dichotomy. That puts family in competition with the church. When Paul was writing to Timothy, and he said in 1 Timothy 3:5, how can we expect to lead a church if we cannot lead our own families? What he was saying was, in the context of the church, family should be your first priority of ministry. In other words, if you put family and church in separate buckets, you are making them competitive. But if you realize that your family is your first line of ministry in the church, then you will see healthier families. Another area where ministers are unprepared is finance. Let me give a shout out to one of my sons. Go to artrainer.com, and just read all about ministry finance. Read about finances in general. Or go to his podcast and listen to his podcast. He's just kind of the guy that's in that area right now. He has some books out as well. He has a subscription ministry. You can find all those at artrainer.com, and just let that be a resource for financial matters. But ministers thrust into an organization where maybe they're expected to manage the budget, they're expected to know financial issues, debt issues, stewardship issues, and they haven't been prepared for it. I get it, but there are ways that you can be prepared for it. Another area, number 6, where ministers are often unprepared for ministry is church members having a consumer mentality. Many will come out of seminary and they'll have this illusion, this sometimes a delusion, that church members are going to be these people who are saying, how can I serve you? How can I sacrifice self for the greater good of the church? And there are some church members like that, to be sure. But there are a lot of church members that say, we don't like the worship style. We don't like the way this building is painted. We don't like the ministries and the programs. We don't like how long you preach. And all of a sudden you realize that there's a lot of church members out there who are more concerned about 3 people, me, myself, and I, rather than for the good of the church. And it can become a shock to the system of many pastors and other church ministers. That consumer mentality, you don't have to accept it in terms of embracing it. You have to accept it in terms of its reality, and then you deal with it. Another one, uneven expectations. Different members of the church have different expectations of a pastor. I've told you on many occasions how I had all of my deacons, my 12 deacons at the time, tell me what they expected of me. And I said, how many hours do you expect me to counsel? How many hours do you expect me to be in sermon preparation? And the list goes on and on. And basically, those 12 deacons expected me to be doing ministry in the church 24/7 and plus. I couldn't do it. That means I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't be any time with my family if I met the expectations of just 12 people in the church. Once you get beyond that, you would have to literally work a 1,000-hour work week to satisfy everyone. Many ministers are unprepared for the uneven expectations, and they often burn themselves out trying to chase the expectations of church members in order to fulfill them. These uneven expectations can be one of the deadliest areas where ministers are not prepared for ministry. Another one is uneven spiritual growth. I recently heard from a pastor that said, I wish I had all spiritually mature church members in my church. No, you don't. Why? That means that you don't have any new Christians in your church. That means that you don't have any non-Christians attending your church. You do not want everybody to be the epitome of spiritual maturity in the sense that means you're not reaching others. The growth as a disciple of Christ is a continuum process. You're going to have some at greater levels of spiritual maturation than others. You're going to have some baby Christians. You're going to have some carnal Christians. You're going to have some non-Christians. And you're going to have some mature Christians. Church life is messy. You have to deal with the reality of all categories. Now, what can you do about these areas where you're unprepared? Well, you can get prepared better for some of them. But just having an awareness of them will help you to know that these are the realities that many pastors and other church ministers face. I hope these series of the Rainer Report are helpful to you. I'll continue to join you 2 or 3 times a month on these video presentations where we can share things of critical interest and importance to the church. Thank you as always for being here, and thank you, Tim Songster, Costco, the church design build firm that has been our partner from almost the inception of our ministry, the platform ministry here. Go to churchdesign.com if you have any facility needs in terms of building a new building or remodeling an existing facility. They are the best in the business. 2 of my sons are using them right now, so I speak as one, not only of authority, with experience as well. And thank you always for joining us at the Rayner Report, where we'll continue to grow healthy churches together.